Welcome to a new video, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, I want to touch upon just a few things that you can use or do to improve your sleep schedule. Sleep is so important, and as you get older, it becomes even more important to ensure that you get adequate rest. I remember when I was in my early 20s, and all throughout high school, in all honesty, I was like the worst insomniac. I would go to bed sometimes at like 1:30 in the morning during high school and get up at 6. And I did this all the time. I would stay up so late researching or watching television or doing whatever it was that I was doing at the time. And at the time, I was able to do it. I was able to go to water polo practice, in the morning, and then later in the afternoons, I was able to, function throughout school and whatnot. But, you can only do that for so long is what I'm getting at before your actions start to catch up to you. So it's just interesting to see how our bodies and our needs change as we get older, ladies and gentlemen. And sleep is something, regardless of whether or not you are young and you can get away with being an insomniac or not, regardless of where you're at in life right now, I would like this message. What I'm trying to do with this message is inspire you to modulate and augment, to improve, to upgrade your sleep schedule, regardless of whether or not you can get away with being, someone like a night owl who doesn't get a lot of rest. That will eventually catch up to you. So if you are in that situation, just to dovetail this in before we continue, if you are young and you're able to stay up later and function, I hope this message can reach you and inspire you to kind of shift your perception, because although you can get away with staying up later when you're younger, if you manage your sleep schedule a little bit better, you're going to be able to regenerate quicker. You're going to be able to function better. Your mind's going to be sharper. And your later years, ladies and gentlemen, when you get older, are going to be, things are just going to move more smoothly for you, because your brain, your body is going to be adequately rested. So now that I'm in my early 30s, I'm kind of playing catch up for all of the late nights that I've had, ladies and gentlemen. My body requires a lot of sleep right now. And although that's okay, I wish I would have been smarter with my time when I was younger. For instance, this may sound silly, and I don't know why I did it. And it's not because I was afraid of the dark, but I would fall asleep sometime or most of the week during high school or middle school with my light on. And occasionally my mom or my dad would walk down the hallway during the middle of the night or whatnot and see that the light was on and open my door and turn it off. But there were times where I'd just pass out with my light on. And knowing what I know now about light, it's like, holy shit, how much damage was I not only doing to my skin, but how much damage was I doing to my melatonin production? Because as I've said in recent videos, folks, and I'm going to continue to say, when your body, when you're exposed to excessive amounts of artificial light that carries with it a lot of blue light, it suppresses melatonin production, because it goes into your eyes, stimulates a region of your brain known as your suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it tells your body to be awake. Now, I've gone over the mechanics and the mechanisms and the science of how blue light keeps you awake. I don't want to get into it in this video. If you're interested, I've put links in the description box below to a few of the videos where I discuss this in greater detail. I have a video called TLS, Toxic Light Syndrome, and a handful of others. I will, however, say before we continue that the artificial lighting, ladies and gentlemen, we are exposed to way too much of this stuff. And the way that it's designed, it basically tricks the body into thinking it's the wrong time of day, and predicated upon that, it hinders and halts the normal and natural production of melatonin, which is a regulatory hormone constituent that modulates and controls, it regulates our wake and sleep cycle, our circadian rhythm. So if your melatonin is being suppressed, folks, and it's not producing in your pineal gland and moving through your system, your time clock gets fucked up. Your ability to fall asleep at a good time gets messed up because you're not drowsy. Melatonin causes you to become drowsy. On top of that, melatonin exerts a very strong anti-inflammatory kind of antioxidant quality on the physiology. You need sufficient amounts of melatonin in your system to remain healthy. And most people are melatonin deficient. And if they're not deficient, ladies and gentlemen, they're on their way to becoming deficient. And it's because our sleep schedules, our circadian rhythm, our inner clock, so to speak, is out of alignment. So again, I'm not going to get into the mechanisms and the mechanics of how blue light suppresses melatonin production. I've talked about it in previous videos. I will, however, say that it indeed does suppress your melatonin production. And we have televisions constantly spitting out blue light, artificial light. We have devices, laptops, tablets, smartphones, LED lights. There's when the sun goes down, folks, most people have not only one device that's spitting out artificial blue or light with blue light in it, but multiple. And blue light is part of the color spectrum, and the sun carries with it blue light as well as part of the color spectrum. And blue light goes into your brain in the morning, tells your brain to be, or goes into your eyes through your photoreceptors and tells your brain to be alert. It causes kind of a cortisol effect. So what do you think happens when the sun goes down and you turn on your devices and all your LEDs and all this technology in your home that spits out blue light? You're telling your system to stay alert, to stay awake. And that's why so many people, 20, 30 years ago, there was nowhere near as much insomnia and sleep-related issues with people's health. There was nowhere near as much. But nowadays, it's very common to talk to people who just never seem to be able to be caught up with sleep. They're never able, regardless of how long they sleep, to just wake up feeling refreshed. And that's a huge problem, because when you don't wake up feeling refreshed, you're driven to feel motivated to consume massive amounts of coffee or stimulants or other things to help keep you up throughout the day, because your inner clock, your time clock, is so fucked up from all of the blue light exposure and all the chemical additives. There's a handful of reasons, ladies and gentlemen, not just light, but light is a huge part of this. There is a handful of reasons why we do not get good quality, deep, restful sleep nowadays. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that do, because there are. And I'm going to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, a few tips on how to improve your sleeping in this video. But I will, however, just say, again, I want to dovetail this in. A lot of people's issues, in my opinion, not all of them, but a lot of them, are directly related to their sleep quality or lack thereof. We have all the electronic devices constantly spitting out electromagnetic fields constantly, ladies and gentlemen, in our homes, oftentimes right on our nightstand, right next to our head while we're trying to sleep. We know through research that these electromagnetic fields affect our ability to enter into deep regenerative states of sleep. We have Wi-Fi signals permeating throughout our entire home, looking for and connected to our smartphones. We've got noise off in the distance from neighbors. We've got annoying people speeding down streets. There's constantly a residual humdrum of noise and electromagnetic static and wireless pollution surrounding us. There's a handful of factors leading up to and contributing to our poor sleep quality here in the Matrix. And on top of that, food people eat affects good quality, restful sleep. And, a lot of people are consuming caffeine way too late in the day. And we know from research that if you consume caffeine, it's pretty much still in your system 10 hours later. So if you have your last cup of coffee at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, by the time you go to bed, you've still got some caffeine moving through your system. And that stuff, caffeine, although I'm a huge fan of coffee, caffeine affects our ability to enter into sleep. It also, if we do manage to fall asleep with caffeine in our system, it affects our ability to slip into those deep regenerative states of sleep. Because again, ladies and gentlemen, caffeine, although it is an amazing substance when it comes from natural sources like coffee, it is a stimulant. It stimulates the adrenals too much. It stimulates the fight or flight mechanisms of the brain-body complex, and it keeps you awake. It keeps you alert. That's what it does. That's what stimulants do. We also have a nation full of people hooked on Adderall, prescription stimulants, things like Ritalin and all the other nonsense. This is a crazy, crazy world right now. A lot of people need constant consumption of some type of stimulant to keep them awake during the day. And I've been there. I still drink coffee. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form, but I have improved my sleep schedule very, very much so by just, there's just a few tips here I want to share with you. Start wearing blue blocking sunglasses. I have links in the description box below where I talk about these in greater detail. I also have a link in the description box below of the exact product that I recommend using when I talk about blue blocking sunglasses. There's expensive models. I've used $110 blue blocking glasses, $200 glasses. I've used $20 glasses, and I've found a pair for $11. They're called Uvex Skypers that work wonderful when the sun, after 6 o'clock, or right when the sun goes down, ladies and gentlemen. As the sun's about to go down every night, you put these on and you wear them until you go to bed. This shields all of the blue light from entering into your photoreceptors, all of that blue light from the electronic devices that tells your brain to be alert. So when you wear these, ladies and gentlemen, it blocks all of this light from entering into your eyeballs, and in doing so, it tells your brain that it's dark out. You're basically using these glasses to shield all of the blue light coming into your eyes that would normally tell your brain to be alert. So by wearing the glasses, you trick your brain into thinking you are in an absence of light, and it causes your pineal gland, your brain, to start producing sufficient amounts of melatonin. This is how you upregulate your melatonin. This is how you start to teach yourself to be on a healthy circadian rhythm. This is how you start to, again, spike your melatonin levels, which, again, is much more than a regulatory hormone that modulates and regulates your circadian rhythm. It's also a profound antioxidant. It exerts a very health-promoting quality to you. You need it. So our ancestors, when the sun would go down, they didn't have access to all of these devices, so that they would light fires and torches and whatnot. And the red light and the orange light and the yellow light that comes off of fire doesn't suppress melatonin when it enters into the eyes. It actually can help you become drowsy. Firelight. The LEDs, the blue light, the television, ladies and gentlemen, this is a weaponized system. And it has created a culture, especially here in the United States, of people who are under the influence of what I call TLS, which is toxic light syndrome. This is a huge problem. People's circadian rhythms are all fucked up. And on top of that, people are eating massive amounts of garbage bullshit food filled full of waste, filled full of heavy metals, filled full of genetically engineered material, filled full of Trojan horse weapon systems, whether you want to believe that or not. I've done the research. Have you? Don't try to come on my channel and tell me that I'm a fearmonger or that what I'm saying isn't true if you haven't done the research. Because if you do indeed do the research, which again I have, you will come to find that a large majority of the ingredients in the foods at the supermarket should not belong there. Should be a criminal to put in all of the heavy metals, ladies and gentlemen, and all of the excessive amounts of vegetable oils, which I need to do a complete video just on the dangers of, soybean oil and the canola oil. Most processed foods have a host of different ingredients in them. But most processed foods also, ladies and gentlemen, have a few primary culprits. For instance, what I mean by this is, although there's a slew of different processed foods on the market that most Americans love to suck up, and although those foods range from, sweets to salty to savory, there's usually amongst all processed foods a couple of ingredients that are usually all in these foods. I hope that makes sense. So you can go pick up multiple processed foods from your store, and chances are if you read the ingredients label, there's going to be a few ingredients that are in all of them. And usually it's vegetable oils, it's the canola oils, the soybean oil, the cottonseed oil. This is a huge problem. And I'm going to make a video talking about why this is a huge problem. The exposure to excessive amounts of vegetable oils. Not good for the heart, ladies and gentlemen. Not good for your tissues. Not good for your skin. Not good for your brain. Excessive amounts of these oils, these fats. So aside from people being, the problem with the light in the exposure to all of the blue light, the exposure to all of the, the laptops at night and, all this other nonsense, the light takes your circadian rhythm out of alignment. It damages and hinders your melatonin production. which totally takes your inner clock, your biorhythms out of alignment. And then you eat garbage food, stuff your face full of stimulants and different additives throughout the day, supplements, you name it, just to stay awake. You go to a stressful job that you hate. Your atmosphere is filled with toxins. I mean, there's something wrong here, ladies and gentlemen. We need to fix ourselves. We need to change our patterns. And one of the greatest ways to do this is simply to upgrade your home. You spend 1/3 of your life in bed. You spend a large majority of your time in your home. Get an air filter, get a water filter, upgrade your sleep schedule, upgrade your lights, your lighting quality. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that, because there's no reason you should be having, incandescent light bulbs. They're a little bit more expensive nowadays and they break more often than the LEDs. And, but they're much healthier than having all the LEDs. I'm going to show you guys which light bulbs I use here in the near future. But I will say that, I've gone throughout my entire home and gotten rid of pretty much 99% of the LEDs and all of the CFLs, the compact fluorescents, and put incandescent light bulbs back into the fixtures. And that alone had a huge effect on my ability to become drowsy. When my wife and I upgraded to LEDs, we had months and months ago, we had incandescent light bulbs in the house. And then we decided, hey, let's just try some LEDs for the hell of it. Let's see what goes on. We had constant headaches for the 7 days that we had those LEDs and the CFLs plugged into our living room light bulb, our fixtures, the kitchen, our bedroom. We were both like, what the hell is going on here? Why do we constantly have headaches? We never have headaches this often. And lo and behold, the one thing that we did change, the only thing that we changed, was the goddamn lighting. And when we put the incandescent light bulbs back, the headaches went away. And not to mention, and just to dovetail this in, when we installed the LEDs and then turned the light bulbs or the light fixture on in the living room, the LEDs were so bright that I could literally feel my forehead muscles twitching. The light, whether you know it or not, is so intense from these LEDs nowadays that it actually stimulates and almost burns the inner portions of your eyes and stimulates your skin. And the only way to really know this is if you have been exposed to cool temperature, cool lighting, like incandescents for prolonged periods, and then you just immediately plug in some LEDs and turn them on. You'll almost feel like you have to squint for a while until your eyes get adjusted to the new light. But that's the thing. Most people have been around LEDs and all this new light, all this blue light, the actinic colored kind of Arctic looking blue light for so long that their bodies have just adjusted to it. So now you think that it's normal to be under this lighting because your body's used to it. But I can guarantee you, if you were around incandescents or softer lighting, your body would feel so much calmer. And the blue light from the LEDs and whatnot doesn't just affect your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. It affects your skin. Light is so huge. Light is such an important piece to the puzzle here, of health. And don't believe me? Watch what happens if the sun were to go out. Just watch what happens to life on Earth if the sun wasn't up there. And you're going to tell me that light isn't important, ladies and gentlemen? We are a symbiotic entity with the world that we live in. Just like the trees require light, just like the plants, and just like pretty much every single thing in this dimension requires sunlight, life-giving wavelengths of color and heat and light, radiation, ladies and gentlemen. We require natural light. The body does not have a need for LEDs and all this other nonsense. This is a huge psyop, folks. A huge, huge, huge psyop. Man. So let me just get off my rant here. I just want to say that our ancestors, when the light went out, they would, light fires. Fires don't carry with it a bunch of blue light. They would get drowsy, fall asleep, and they were more in tune with the circadian rhythms than natural biorhythms of the solar and lunar cycles. But get a pair of the UVX Skypers, wear them when the sun goes down, wear them until you go to bed. Make sure no blue light comes through those glasses. Even when you go to bed, if you're going to use your phone when you lay down in bed, keep the glasses on. And then when you're getting ready to go to bed, take the glasses off, put them on your nightstand, and keep your eyes closed. And after about a week or two, chances are you will start producing a lot more melatonin, and you will find it much easier to become you'll just be able to fall asleep easier. You'll get better sleep quality. These have made a huge effect on my health. Just this $11 pair of glasses. I cannot recommend them enough. I'm in love with this pair of glasses. Again, I've used a handful of different types. I've used $110, blue blocking glasses, 50, just a whole gamut of them. And the UVEX Skypers work the best. They have kind of like a side shield that keeps light from coming into the sides through your eyes. And that's where most blue blocking glasses go wrong. They don't have side shielding. Another tip, ladies and gentlemen, when the sun goes down, limit your amount of light that you have on in your house by 50%. So for instance, if you have a living room light on and a kitchen light on all the time, turn the kitchen light off. Limit the amount of light in your environment when the sun goes down by 50%. That alone can kind of just help gear your mind towards thinking, okay, it's time for rest. You kind of start shutting down your alert systems in your brain by doing that. Another tip, don't drink caffeine if you can past 1 p.m. We know through research that caffeine stays in your system for prolonged periods, and we also know through research, as I mentioned earlier in this video, that excessive amounts of caffeine, or caffeine in general, when it's consumed, stays in your system for over 9 to 10 hours. It also it keeps you stimulated. It moves through your system and keeps you alert. A lot of people who have sleep issues drink caffeine way too often. And it's not that caffeine is a bad thing, but you can indeed overdo it to the expense of you not getting sleep. And if you don't get enough sleep, the irony of all this is that you need more caffeine when you wake up just to get going, just to get your energy back up, just to function. Drink less caffeine and check out a particular supplement called Solbutamine. I recently did a video review of it here on my YouTube channel. You can use supplements to wean yourself off of caffeine use if you currently consume too much of it. You can use the supplements instead of the caffeine, and then when your body gets used to not having the caffeine, you can just quit or stop taking the supplements. I hope that makes sense. Because caffeine withdrawals are a very real thing, and if you're used to using caffeine throughout the day to stay awake, to get through your job and whatnot, it can be very detrimental to your stress levels to just up and quit caffeine, to just up and quit coffee. So you can use things like Solbutamine, you can use things like Rhodiola rosea, you can use things like there's a handful of different supplements out there that you can use, but Solbutamine was one of the best ones. So just a few different tips here, folks. Keep your house cooler as well. It's much easier to fall asleep and stay asleep in a colder house. If you can afford it, keep the AC or keep the temperature in your home at a relatively cool temperature. Bundle up and get good rest. Weighted blankets are also another awesome thing that a lot of people swear by. They don't work for everybody, but weighted blankets tend to keep people, it's easier to fall asleep when you have a lot of weight on you. At least that is for what I've found to be true. But it's not for everyone. And last but not least, and I could go on and on and on about these tips, but just to keep things simple and succinct, last but not least, look into sleep supplementation, at least until you get back on track with deep, restful sleeping. You can check out things like Valerian Root. There's supplements like Galantamine, which have shown to have a pretty significant influence on people's sleep schedule, especially people who are looking to lucid dream. Galantamine is really interesting. Magnesium before you go to sleep, about 250 to 300 magnesium or milligrams of magnesium bisglycinate can be really effective. And also rubbing magnesium oil on your feet and then putting socks on can really help you fall asleep at night too, ladies and gentlemen. But you really do need to wear socks if you're going to do this. Otherwise, you're going to stain your sheets. And those are just a few different tips. Another thing I would recommend doing is start meditating before bed. Do the inner temple exercise. That will put you to sleep almost immediately. And I talk about that on my Patreon page, how to do the inner temple exercise. Utilizing the inner temple exercise with the full body relaxation exercise that I talk about on my Patreon page are going to put your body and your mind into a deep, deep restful state. And it's going to help you fall asleep immediately and stay awake and stay asleep. Now, if you couple those two exercises with the blue blocking sunglasses, the minimal light exposure, and the other things that I talked about in this video, you're going to do yourself a huge service. I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope this video helps. Work on your sleep schedule, ladies and gentlemen. Improve your life. Peace be with you.